So, a well-known progressive commentator, podcaster, Jennifer Welch, went kind of viral this week for slamming homeschoolers. She says that we are promoting trickle-down stupidity, we are MAGA on steroids, and that America has a crazy Christian problem.
It's a pretty big red flag when somebody tells you, when you're like, what's their deal? They seem kind of off. Well, I was homeschooled. You're like,
Yeah.
oh. But I just think it's such a selfish thing for parents to do.
I have thoughts. Let's hop in. Hi guys, welcome back to Tea Talk, where we discuss all things crunchy, conservative, Christian. I'm trying to think of other C's that fit into like this intro, because I think we're on a roll here with the, what do they call that? Not alliterations. Please tell me what they call that in the comments, where you like pick the same letter and you roll off of it. And you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean. So today, as usual, I feel kind of boring. I'm still drinking the same tea. Actually, no, that's not true. I was drinking Tear, which is pretty much the only place I go for tea in town. Oh, my chickens are also going crazy. We'll see if they'll let me record this morning. But this morning, for the record, I am drinking a strawberry cloud mixed with a green pineapple tea. I always mix these two flavors together. This is from a local tea shop, and I buy those two flavors. I mix them together. They're absolutely delicious, not organic, but like, I don't know, no sugar. I don't add sugar to my teas ever. So cheers. So guys, today, we are discussing the hottest topic on the internet in the conservative, crunchy homeschool space, and I'm going to be responding to Miss Jennifer Welch. Now, so I had seen this lady's stuff before because she hosts a podcast with her friend, which I actually think, like the couple episodes I've seen, I actually think it's kind of funny. In like preparing for this episode, I watched Ben Shapiro give a reaction video to their podcast, and he made a comment saying like, I do not understand what is up with these ladies because they are not very good on camera. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Because when I was like preparing for this, I had specifically thought, oh, I gotta say that they like literally made me crack up out loud multiple times. So these ladies, they have a podcast. They are very liberal, left-leaning ladies. And I had stumbled across their videos on the internet. I didn't know their name. This happens to me sometimes. I have like a history of doing this with people where like I will watch people's videos. They'll come across my feed multiple times. I'll have no clue who they are. And then like 6 months later, I start putting dots together. I'm like, oh, that's who you are. Got it. I almost feel like my podcast should also be sponsored by oats because I have to keep a bag of oats next to me for when the chickens go buck wild while I'm recording. Anyways, as I was saying, so I had stumbled across these girls' podcast a few times, but I never took like any note of their names or who they were. Side note, that's not a side note. That's actually what happened when I first discovered Doug Wilson years ago too. YouTube just served up like an audio recording of his, and I was like, who is this person? Like, he gave some seriously awesome takes, or as they say, based takes in this audio. And I had no clue who he was for, once again, like 6 months or so. I was just, I would like get served these videos on YouTube, thought this guy's great, and eventually figured out, oh, he's Doug Wilson. It's kind of like a long story as to how I like put these points together, and then figured out kind of who he was in the whole like political, faith, cultural commentary sphere. Anyways, it's kind of a side note because it's different with these ladies, right? We are not on the same page. We don't see the world the same. Clearly, it's evidenced by her latest, specifically the one chick, Jennifer Welch's latest viral take. Now, I had also heard of her on another side note that's not a side note, because one of my good friends, Lori Beth Aldridge, who I interviewed on my channel, if you want to check out her interview, she's like a hardcore homeschooling advocate. And one thing that I love about Lori Beth, and I have admired about her since meeting her, and the thing that I've really like looked at her and I'm like, that is her use of language around explaining why homeschooling is so beneficial for children, for, you know, depending on the situation, for the families, and just the way that that's the best way to put it. The way that she uses language to describe her educational philosophy and worldview is just like excellent. And the cool thing about Lori Beth too is, unlike, you know, one of the things that Jennifer Welch was saying in these clips, which I'm probably going to insert clips. I actually tried to go back and find the entire podcast episode to watch it in its entirety. I couldn't find it. I found another episode where she was talking trash on homeschoolers, but that was not the viral episode. So all I have are like the clips from the episode that went viral themselves. But what I was going to say is one of the things that Jennifer was saying in this podcast was basically just saying that like all the dumbest people that her and her friends knew in college are the ones that are homeschooling. And I already thought that was kind of a funny point because I was like, well, I didn't even really technically I did go to college, but like I don't have a college degree and I'm over here homeschooling my children. Like she's talking about me. But, my friend Lori Beth, she has, I want to say like 3 degrees or something crazy like that, like 2 masters. And then like just like a bachelor's degree. I don't remember, but they're in like children's literature, children's development. I think those might be her 2 masters. Don't quote me on this, but that is the gist. And you can go look her up. I think she actually did her own reaction episode potentially to this episode, reacting to Jennifer's thoughts around homeschoolers, because guys, they were pretty vile. she had some strong words for us homeschoolers.
How many parents project a script onto their kids? I'm a dumbass, so therefore I'm going to make sure you're a dumbass. I'm a idiot. I made D's, as our caller said, Ellie. She, the dumbest people she knew in college were homeschooling their kids. And so this is trickle down stupidity. This is MAGA on steroids. This is Maha. This is trad wife. This is unvaxxed and unjacked and all that. This is the worst. And this is America has a crazy Christian problem. We have a fundamental crazy Christian problem.
And it was just so interesting because even though I never saw the whole episode, I only saw the clips, and that's what we're going to be talking about, or like I want to kind of primarily react to. I did watch, like I said, another episode, and she had stuff to say about homeschoolers and specifically unschoolers in that episode as well. It was very interesting on another side note that's not a side note though, because in this episode, they were essentially replying to Reddit threads. And so a couple of the Reddit threads that they replied to in this episode had to do with like homeschooling and unschooling. And they were kind of a little bit outrageous. You actually might have seen one of these Reddit threads go viral because I had seen people reacting to this online, and it was basically supposedly, and I always feel like I have to say that because I literally don't trust anything on the internet, guys, including these posts from supposed people that like make them look so dumb. Like as they were reacting to all these Reddit posts, that's one of the main things I kept thinking, like you're mocking these people, laughing, speaking down to them. And honestly, I'm over here being like, are these even real people? Like, I literally don't trust anything online. I take things, I absorb them, I utilize the things that make sense, like in my real life. I don't know. I'm able to keep things kind of compartmentalized though, but that was the thought that I had. Like, are these even real people? But one of the posts that she read was from a mom that was essentially saying like, hey guys, so I unschooled my son and I just kind of figured that he would eventually show more interest in learning how to read specifically. And then eventually I would be able to like step in and help him when he showed interest, but the interest hasn't come. He hasn't learned how to read. And recently they went to some kind of, I don't even know, like a church event or something. Maybe it was a homeschool event. And basically the tutor or the helper, the teacher, whoever that was at the event, like scolded the mom. Like, he can't even read at all. He's 8. Like he's not reading anything. And the mom was basically like, help. Like, I thought that this was going to work. And so Jennifer and her friend, I think her friend's name is Angie, the co-host on the podcast, they were like laughing at this woman. It was kind of funny. I mean, that's the thing. Like, this is where I disagree with Ben. They are kind of funny. Like, I am definitely one of those people though, that like my whole life, I've never felt like I can laugh at both sides, if that's the way we want to put it, like philosophical, political, whatever. I say spiritual, like faith. I can laugh at lots of different. There's not a whole lot that it's like, no, that was not funny to me, because sometimes things are just funny. And Dan and I were talking about this last night, actually. I was like, dang it, Dan, I think it's so interesting and funny when I find like a leftist, more like liberal leaning comedian who's like hilarious and they're cracking me up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, laughing. And then as I'm laughing, the laughter kind of fades off and I'm like, but I think you're wrong and I'm actually sad for you. Like, it's this double, like, super funny combined with like, wow, this is really depressing because I think you're very wrong. Like, there's like a comedian on Instagram that I'll watch who she makes fun of like home births, homeschooling, anti-vaxxers, all of that. She's hilarious, but I think she is deeply flawed in her assessment of understanding like the whole sphere and really the arguments behind these things. These perspectives. So anyways, Jennifer and Angie were reacting to that post on Reddit about the supposed unschooling mom and, saying that her kid can't read. So that was in the episode that I was watching. I want to give a quick shout out to the first sponsor of today's video, and that is Homestead brand. I've shouted them out before. They make currently one of my favorite purses. I got this purse last summer. I'm actually friends with the owner of the brand. They are the nicest, I was going to say God-fearing, like Christian, crunchy, incredible family. They make the most beautiful leather goods, like high quality leather belts. And like I mentioned, this purse that I have been absolutely obsessed with for like the last year. The leather is a beautiful color. It feels amazing. It holds a lot. It's sturdy. And on top of all of that, like I said, I just love the family. So check out Homestead brand. You will not be disappointed with any of their products. They actually have a storefront now in Washington, which is really incredible. So check that out if you get a chance to make it down there. And you can use the code NikkiP for 10% off. Thank you as always for using my codes. Happy shopping with Homestead brand. Their stuff is literally incredible. Let's hop back in. Yeah, I mean, and the post, the reaction to that Reddit post was funny, and just their commentary in general was funny. And then simultaneously, I wanted to like pop through the screen and be like, okay, yes, but also there's so much more to it than this, right? Like the perspective of even something like unschooling. If that was a real person writing that Reddit post, I just wanted to reach through and be like, wait, but there's more to it than this. Because so I was having a conversation with a friend last week about curriculum and homeschooling, unschooling, all of that. And at this point, I legitimately would say that we fall into like the unschooling category, honestly. Like that's what it feels like we are, but simultaneously, like Logan does things that he doesn't want to do. Like I make him do some things. Now, is he screaming, sobbing, getting angry, yelling, telling me, "No, Mom, I don't want to." No, that's not what's happening. That would change the situation a bit. If he was like aggressively anti doing some of these things, I'm not quite sure what I would do, but the point is he's not. He gets stubborn, you know, like sometimes he just doesn't want to do things. But the way I see that is similar to how I see everything else in life. Like I don't really think that there are many things that I do in life that take work that I come to with just full verve and excitement all the time. Like most of the time, I got to get myself jazzed and amped into doing it. I mean, guys, talking, filming videos is like one of my top passions in life. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when it's time to film, I'm like, but I just want to do something else. I just want to be lazy, or I want to hang out, or I want to whatever, anything but work. And that's the thing is work, whatever that is, if we're talking about working out, if we're talking about tackling a project that like you really, really want to tackle, but it's going to take work, or schoolwork, whatever. It's not, in my opinion, exactly in human nature to be jazzed about doing work, particularly when the work is consistent. Like sometimes I think it can be human nature to get jazzed about work up front, you know, like kind of whether it's romanticizing or fantasizing about what the work's going to be. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to do this because you can picture the end goal so clearly in the beginning before you're fatigued, before you're worn down. But in general, usually then the continuation of it, the consistency of it can wear you down and make you like just not feel as jazzed to be doing it. So I feel that same way towards school. You might be like, wait, what? You've talked about like, why would you force a child to sit at a desk when that's the last thing they want to do? And it's like, yeah, I do feel that way. So this goes back to like, well, does this put me, I mentioned this in a previous podcast, does this just like reinforce that idea that I'm a bag of contradictions? Probably. But also I just think, no, I actually think it's just because life is very nuanced. Like nuance is everywhere and people don't love nuance because it's not as easily prescribable or breakdownable, which I realize isn't the right phrase. And that is why I think we actually fall under the umbrella of unschooling, because the work that we're doing is not super breakdownable. Like, and I know that's not a word, just roll with me, people. Like when I look at Logan's work, he does school. I mean, yesterday he was doing a math page. We were working on some double digit addition, and he did some reading by himself yesterday. We are currently together reading through the Little House series. We read through Pilgrim's Progress together together twice. He's doing school, but none of it is a set curriculum. Like, this is the curriculum we're following. None of it is a set schedule. Like, every day at this time we do school, even like weekly. None of it is really set. A lot of our life right now revolves around encouraging him to follow his curiosity, which, on a side note, I actually have a note thing in my phone that I started about a month ago. And I keep that note pinned to the top of my notes section. And I basically drop in there every single time that Logan asks me a question about a topic that, like, maybe I don't know the answer to, or I know the basic answer, but it's like, homie, this is like there's a lot more to this, and I want you to be able to explore this topic, and I don't want to forget. So I write down in that note section all of the like funny questions that he has, topics that he's interested in. And the reason I keep that notepad is for a couple of things. It's really just ideas for, it's like subject inspiration, whether we want to check out specific books at the library, or honestly, in this day and age on YouTube, you can find like a documentary or someone talking about these topics on YouTube. Now, is it all like, you kind of got to like vet these things. It's not just like, oh, look, somebody's talking about this. Like, obviously, right? Do I have to give this disclaimer? You got to vet, you got to look. There's trusted resources, there's janky resources, but I've mentioned this before. I see the parent as like the guidance counselor in a lot of ways. But yeah, so that's why I feel like we are in the unschooling camp, but I do not resonate with unschoolers who are like, I don't make my kids do anything. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I make them do things. And it's not even just schoolwork. Like, okay, we're going to read. It's like, I don't want to read. And like I said, there's a difference here. If it was like, I hate reading, I don't want to read. It's like, okay, we would maybe be approaching this differently. That to me would be a sign of something developmentally, like where they are in their journey. And if they're, maybe saying that they're not ready. Like, I do believe in this concept of children potentially not being ready to learn to read before they're ready to learn to read. So it's both, right? I believe children have to be ready, but I believe we have to give them these circumstances, the opportunity to learn, to succeed, to grow, to face these challenges, and the exposure to, in this really simple case, right? The alphabet, phonics, beautiful literature, the library. So it's time for the next sponsor of the video, and that is Bioptimizers. I have given them a ton of shout outs, but if you don't know, now you know. I'm obsessed with their magnesium. Their magnesium is amazing because it has 7 different types of magnesium. So different magnesiums do different things in your body, like they help different functions of your body. And so by taking a magnesium that has 7 different types, you are increasing the likelihood of absorption and what it can do to help support your body. I've also said this before, but when I was pregnant, I struggled with restless leg syndrome. But if I took their magnesium, I did not struggle with restless leg syndrome anymore, which is amazing because that can be a little bit torturous. If you've had it before, But I take their magnesium every day just for general health because magnesium is used in so many different functions in your body. And I usually take it in the morning to help me stay chill and feel like relaxed and ready and confident for the day. And I take it at night to help support my sleep. I also occasionally use their sleep breakthrough product. It's like a sleep support drink that I will actually give Logan a very small amount of sometimes at night for sleep. And he loves it. He loves the taste. He loves the sleep that he gets from it. If you use the code NikkiP10, you can get 10% off of your order. And thank you in advance for using my code. I always appreciate it. Back to the video. A good example to this really is an easy example is like working out, right? You got to kind of like do it. I don't even really know where I'm going with this. Just the fact that like, I think that I fall into the unschooling category. And it was very interesting watching them react, just like the video where she was saying that it's like MAGA ultra and trickle down stupidity to homeschool your kids. That's what this felt like too, where just this massive misrepresentation. And I saw Allie Beth Stuckey posting on Instagram like this morning or yesterday talking about actual like statistics for homeschoolers, like how they typically score on the SATs, how they do with college admission, just those types of like actual hard numbers. And not only were those fascinating, and I thought like, well, look at this. See, here's like a hard example of how she was misrepresenting homeschoolers. But I could have told you that without the numbers. It was very obvious to me, like, bro, I know so many homeschool families, not only now as a mother, but also growing up. Like, I've just known, I don't even know, hundreds and hundreds of homeschool families. And her depiction of them through their like mocking and their jokes and stuff just don't align with basically any of the homeschool families that I've known since I was a child and I was homeschooling. So that was just very interesting. You know, one of the comments she made in these clips that went viral was like, who wants to be with their kids all day? Like, I don't trust, she makes a joke, like, I don't trust anybody that wants to be with their kids all day. And the co-host was like, I would crawl through broken glass with my child on my back to get them away from me for a period of time. And I just, you know, I don't know. Part of me tends to see the humor in it, like not take them so seriously, right? I feel like every mom understands that you need a break from your children sometimes, or you need like adult time. So my brain tends to just see like the humor in it and the joke in it. But also, you know, since we're doing the commentary, guys, and we're actually making a serious, like thoughtful response, it also made me think about Vodi Bakham's sermon, which I've shouted out. It's a 2-part sermon here on YouTube. I've shouted it out so many times. It's called The Children of Caesar. And what I think makes his talk, his sermon, whatever you want to call it, so great is that he not only approaches the topic of homeschooling from the perspective of faith, obviously. Oh my God, is a bee circling me? No, it's a fly. There's so much that happens out here, guys. I've had to stop like 3 times to tame my chickens. I've got wild flies and bees everywhere. We're okay. Focus. Anyways, what's really great about his sermon is he not only approaches it from like a faith perspective as a believer, but he also talks about homeschooling from a super practical, like time perspective. And he breaks down the week and how much time could be spent on extracurricular activities like driving to school, being at school, homework, blah, blah, all of that. And by the time he breaks it down, you really like it hits you how little time you actually get to have with your children if they're in school full time and, you know, combined with like maybe you're working full time, although, you know, those hours might overlap. You just got to check out his videos. They're really awesome. And so on a serious note, it is also kind of like, okay, like I get you. Yet at the same time, unless we feel called to do so to the right place, which is what I always say about all decisions I make, I don't love the idea of sending my children off to be discipled by other people, which is essentially what it is, all day, every day. You know, you hear people sometimes make these sassy comments, whether it's in the homeschool world or in the birth world, like when someone says, oh my gosh, you homeschool your kids? Like, I could never. This is one of those statements that feels like it could be flipped if someone was being sassy, you know, like how she's like, I don't trust people that want to be around their kids all day. Like, oh my gosh. And it's like, you could totally flip that and be like, really? Because I don't trust someone who doesn't want to be with their kids, doesn't care about what they're learning, what they're doing, what they're eating, who they're friends with, what type of propaganda is being shoved down their throat. And that was another thing. Jennifer in the video was talking about how like we basically just want our kids to be stupid like us. And we've made up this whole idea of like woke educational material, woke propaganda. And they were saying like, oh, these people just love to think that everything is woke and they just like project this. And I just kept thinking, yeah, it's not a projection. Also, the whole like wanting your kids to be stupid just like you. I'm like, I guess that's one way to see it. Or we've talked about this before, this idea that like families, different people hold different skill sets. Talents tend to run in families and within communities. And I think it is like, it serves our nation and our communities to let people and let children dive into the things that they love. And those are going to be different things. Like everyone should not have the same job, obviously. And it's funny because in this new day and age, this new landscape of AI, it particularly feels important to help children find what they love to do, what they're really good at, and how they can actually serve the world and bring the unique skills and giftings and interests that they have to their community and serve people. I mean, and that's the thing is, we've talked about this before. She was very much mocking the idea that like right wingers think that teachers have an agenda or that schools have an agenda. And I just thought like, dang man, but they do. Like there is a very specific educational philosophical worldview that seems to be stemming down through the universities into schools. And it's very odd to me that anyone thinks that there is such a thing as neutrality, but especially someone in the educational sphere. I don't know that you would say that that's what she is, or like someone that considers themselves like an intellectual. Maybe that's more what we would say she identifies with. But it's like, man, there is no such thing as neutrality though. So you might not see something as propaganda. You might, and honestly, I've said this before too, it's genuinely not even an attack on teachers. Like these teachers have an agenda. Like, sure, maybe some of them do have agendas. We've seen some of these supposed crazy teachers on like TikTok and Instagram that have gone viral for just doing things that you're like, okay, that's like a really radical stance. At least if you're a conservative Christian, it's a radical stance. But that's the thing. It's not meant to be an attack on teachers. I do believe that there are plenty of people that are teaching that are in there because they love children, because they want to help educate the future population. It's not like, I don't think there's necessarily like this individual agenda that every teacher in the system has, but I do, backing up, think that there is no such thing as neutrality, that neutrality is a myth, that everybody has a specific worldview and perspective that they're operating from, whether it's their faith or their religion, or it's a secular worldview, which I see as its own kind of faith, if that's how you want to put it, or religion, if that's how you want to put it. It is a perspective and it is not neutral. And here's the thing. I did think her trickle-down stupidity comment was pretty funny. I felt like that was kind of a nod to like trickle-down economics, but trying to like flip it on the conservatives. I did think that was kind of funny. Super incorrect, but kind of funny. I already said that. But that's the thing, right? This goes back to something we talked about in the Duggar episode, this idea of like, oh, so you get to decide, and not her, but kind of in this commentary, like you get to decide what is considered smart, what it means to be educated. And I think that that's part of how we got to this place now where like so many people will look around and be like, why does nobody know how to do anything? Like everybody's just, they all just want to be social media influencers. And I think that that's part of how we got to this place, the removal of, I was going to say God from the schools, but I mean, that's almost a separate thing because obviously I'm very passionate about homeschooling, but sure, I guess we could say God from the schools. The removal of a lot of these practical skills I hear from people that are no longer taught in schools, whether it's like shop class, wood class, or even things, maybe this isn't practical, but in my mind, this is actually a pillar of what it means to be educated, is the idea of debate. And it seems like somewhere, this is my perspective, obviously, you guys can always disagree with everything, but it seems like somewhere in the last like 15 to 20 years, school and these places of like higher education seem to have gone from a place where it was like wrestling thought, debating thoughts, topics, and perspectives to no, there is a decided upon set of information that like, these are facts. This is what it is. You learn it and then you say it back to me. It's not about debating. It's about making sure you understand the supposed facts around any given topic. I also think a lot of what seems to go on in schools has to do with also obeying authority. I've said to you guys before, I didn't go to public school, so I can't speak about this in regards to public school. I went to a private Christian school till 6th grade, and then I was homeschooled, and then I went to a local community college in high school. So those are that's my experience with like educational systems. But I know, at least at the private Christian school I went to, and when I've talked to friends that were in public school, they share similar sentiments. It felt like the overall vibe, the overall gist of the school was like, you learn these facts, you regurgitate them back to us, and you obey. And you do what we say when we say it. And that seemed like kind of a big part of the point, was like training us to obey and like get in the line quicker, get in the line better, follow the instructions better. Oh, you did the school page right. Oh, but you didn't write your name on the top left corner, so I have to deduct, blah, blah, blah from your grades. And part of me gets it, right? Like following instructions is important. But this is something Dan has really taught me over the years, because Dan, to those of you that don't know, is like the opposite of me in a lot of ways, including but not limited to the fact that he's an engineer. He's got an engineer-minded personality. And so he has no problem following directions. I, on the other hand, do have a bit of a problem with that, but he has really grown me in that department just because of his emphasis, or should we say emphasis, his emphasis on details and following instructions. So yeah, I mean, I didn't even react yet to the fact that A chunk of her rant was also about how supposedly America has a crazy Christian problem, because that was kind of her thing. She was like, not you Presbyterians, not you Methodists, but all of you mega church going, like super conservative evangelicals was kind of like the vibe. I don't know, and Catholics and Orthodox, like basically just people that are very conservative. And she thinks that it's a very big problem. And people like her that think it's a very big problem, like I think they're the problem, because they very much threaten school choice, educational choice. And I have said this before, it's like that is the hill I will die on, because my life was changed so dramatically when I was taken out of school. I can't even explain to you how much it felt like I went from every single day waking up and being like, I can't believe I have to do this again. Like I have no choice. I have to do this, to feeling like the world was open to me. Like the world was my oyster. Like I had so many opportunities and I could do whatever I wanted. Not like literally, I mean, kind of literally those first 2 years. I've mentioned this before when I was first homeschooled in 7th and 8th grade. My mom's big thing was like, you have to read. She was like, I don't even care at first what you read. I really want you to just redevelop the love for learning, because she had noticed correctly that school had essentially sucked the love of learning out of me. I didn't find it to be fun. It's ironic because when I left school, history was my least favorite subject. And within 2 years, history became my favorite subject. And then when I went to our local community college out in Los Angeles, when I started attending there, I took at that time every single history class that they had available over the following years. And that was because my mom helped me realize that when I was learning history, when I was quote unquote learning history at school prior to becoming homeschooled, the whole thing was very much like, this is the date that this happened. On this date, on 1692, this happened, like super robotic. It wasn't taught to me or conveyed to me in a way that really connected the fact that these are people. These people had lives. Like these are stories. These stories connect to the next set of stories, which connect to the next set of stories, which like it all connect. I mean, I'm like breaking down history in the lamest way right now. You know what history is, but having my mind be able to be wrapped around this concept of like, wow, this isn't boring. This is like one of the most important topics I could learn. Not literally. I know everybody has different, passions towards different topics. I'm obviously going to be inclined to say that things like, the language arts and history, those are the most important, but I don't even believe that, which once again goes back to my belief around homeschooling in general. I believe that each person has a set of things that could be the most important and helpful for them, for their skills, their life, their community. I do tend to think that language opens the world for you, no matter what your skill sets are. But there just are skills that Dan has that have served our family, that have been important for him, important for our family, important for our community, that I wouldn't have necessarily put at the top of the list in my mind. But they were very important for him to learn because of his giftings, his skills, and the things that he's interested in. Does that make sense? I feel like you guys are following me. I feel like you're tracking me. I want to pause and give a shout out to a sponsor of this video, and that is Lineage. I'm so excited to be sharing Lineage with you guys. Lineage is actually Paul Saladino's brand, who's an incredible doctor, not only within like the Maha movement, if that's how we want to word that, but he's just got so much incredible educational content online, and his brand is amazing. Now, I in particular love the Lineage protein bars. You guys know I'm very picky about protein bars and protein powders. There is another brand that I love as well, and Lineage is my other favorite. Not all protein bars are created equal. I could tell you that without knowing the ingredients, because some protein bars, a lot of protein bars and protein powders actually hurt my stomach, but not these. And I think it really is because of the quality of the ingredients. They're all ingredients that you can read, understand, super simple. And the macros on the bar are amazing. I haven't tried their chocolate chip cojito yet, though it sounds amazing, but their chocolate bar is amazing. It has like the perfect texture with a little bit of crunch, and I just can't recommend them enough. Lineage has a whole array of other high quality products, including raw honey, tallow that I just cooked with last night. So good. I'm actually just starting to take the Lineage creatine powder, so I'll have to let you guys know how that goes. But if you want to check out their protein bars, you can use the code NikkiP and you will get 15% off of your order. And I just always appreciate when you guys use my link. But yeah, it's so interesting to say that America has a crazy Christian problem. Like, obviously, from my perspective, I'm like, do we have a crazy lib problem? Like, what? Yeah, like what's going on here? It just, her analysis felt so unfair and so disconnected from any actual homeschool families. It was shocking. But the thing is, she may know homeschool families and she just may completely disagree with their perspective on what it means to be educated, just like I most likely disagree with her perspective on what it means to be educated. It's something I'm so passionate about because when I think about how much my life changed when I became homeschooled, it almost, I don't want to like give this too much power, but I'm just going to be honest. It almost fills me with a little bit of a sense of fear when people like this come out so against it, because I just think about little Nikki and how grateful I am truly, and about the future choices that I want the ability to make for my children without the state stepping in and telling me like, basically you can't because we own your children. And so those people like Jennifer and Angie that are this vehemently against homeschooling do scare me a bit in that sense, because I'm like, dude, what are you going to try to do? And how your perspective to me is not based in any reality. I mean, probably the closest reality, I like her saying we have a crazy Christian problem. It's probably the closest to reality, like the closest, what's the wording? English, guys. The closest to reality take I heard her give, in the sense that I'm like, well, there's no debating with you then. If you just think that Christians are crazy or that we're crazy, then okay, yeah, we have a crazy Christian problem. Like, I don't see, I mean, even that though, I'm like, really? Because I was not able to find or be connected with some of these other crazy Christians till I moved out of Los Angeles. And that's where I ended up through Nashville. And now here in North Idaho, I've met so many other like-minded families and I love it. But here's the thing. I think I want to close with this. And I wish I could cite my source. I never cite my sources. I feel like I'm always just like dropping little thoughts for you guys to go off and do your own research on anything that interests you. So I don't remember who it was that said this. I'm like, was it a teacher? Was it a commentator? Like, I don't remember, but I think it was a teacher. And this story would be so much more awesome if I could remember the exact details. But the thought really stuck with me. This person, who, like I said, I think was a teacher, was basically saying that they think it's very big-headed, arrogant. Is it like hubris? I don't know. To think that there is one way to learn things, and it's by sitting down to read a certain book and following their train of thought from point A to point B to point C to point. It's basically, he was just saying that's ridiculous to not realize that people and children can go into situations, into real life situations, and garner like a bunch of different things from that situation, whether it's like something around a mathematical skill because they were measuring something or weighing something or building something, or it's a social skill around having to interact with other people, or some type of design skill, or whether it's using their imagination to create something that is then built. Like, being in situations actively, right? Going out into the world with other people, whether they're co-ops or, you know, the park, or like projects you're working on at home, like those types of things, if you actually dive in to assume that those are not learning opportunities, that you're not flourishing and getting real hands-on, actually in context learning, that's the way I think that John Taylor Gatto would actually use it. He would say in his books that stuff that you learn in the classroom, a lot of the stuff is just like out of context stuff, meaning you're in a box separate from the world, learning about it, reading about it, thinking about it, whatever. But when you are out in the real world encountering those topics, you are essentially learning those things in context. And when they are in context, the potential for learning and absorbing information, especially depending on the person, but I'll just say this generally, is large, is better, because there's so much more input. And all of these things are connected. I've mentioned this before, but it's kind of like how, this is maybe a dumb example, and you might be like, girl, if you tell this story one more time, my brain's going to explode. But when I did Annie, I played Annie, like in the play Annie, like Orphan Annie. I played Orphan Annie when I was 13 years old. And I had a really hard time learning my lines. And it occurred to me one day, I was like, dude, I'm not learning my lines because these lines are out of context. I'm just trying to like learn what to say next. I'm trying to essentially memorize a fact. And I realized, I'm like, I think I need to memorize the whole play. And once I approached it that way, so all of the lines were in context, it was kind of easy. And it didn't take me very long before I knew the entire play. Like, I knew everybody else's lines. I'm a little ADHD and all over the place. I also knew everybody else's blocking and choreography and whatever. But the concept still applies of like, I was able to finally memorize the lines when I learned them in context. And I have found that same principle applies to so many areas of life, or it has applied to so many areas of life for myself. Things that I've had a hard time learning till they are in real life context, versus just like sitting at a book and trying to make myself, memorize a fact. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know. I guess I could keep ranting, but I thought these ladies were funny. These are actually their podcast. I'm going to start keeping an eye on them. There's like a handful of people. You guys know this. I like watching people all across the spectrum of perspectives. And I think they're very interesting. So they are some of the people that I will be keeping my eye on, hearing their hot takes, hearing what they have to say. And here's something else I will say about them, actually, just kidding, before we go, is when I was watching their, some of their podcast episodes, it's very interesting because it's not even like I disagreed with everything they were saying. And even in the episode I was watching where they were like mocking the unschoolers, there were things that they said in that episode that I was like, yep, totally. Like I'm right there with you, girlfriend. Like at one point, no offense if this person's watching, though they probably won't. Is this even a real person? They were making fun of someone who they met their husband on Tinder and they wanted to name their child Tinderly, like Leigh. And they were just cracking up. They're like, what is it with all these weird names? And I was kind of laughing along, but for multiple reasons. A, the fact that like I thought I was going to be the one with the quote unquote weird names for my kids. I'm very attracted to all these like artsy, cool, different sounding names. But when it came down to it, it's just funny how I fell into the old fashioned name camp. And it was like, I wanted the names to have like specific meanings. That felt very important to me. And they were talking about that. Like, why does everybody have to get so creative with all their names? Like what happened to like just beautiful traditional names? And I was like, yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of a weird example, but there were a lot of things that it's like, they would have takes on something and I'm all, yeah, that's kind of true, but you're making fun of conservatives and I wouldn't have fallen in that camp. I wouldn't have done what that person did. So once again, it felt like misrepresentation quite a few times of conservatives. Then again, I don't know. I am a little all over the map. Sometimes I think I don't really fit in any camp and it bothers me. Like I'm too conservative for the libs and like not conservative enough for the conservative Christians. Though in my mind, I tend to fall. I'm like in the conservative Christian camp. Thus the, CCC's opening in my podcast. So yeah, so that is it, guys. I hope I didn't do like a proper reaction. I didn't want to like sit here and respond to each clip as we went. So hopefully I, hit them all. I inserted the clips right. That is it. So by the way, I just want to say, if you guys like my podcast, if you like these Tea Talk episodes, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps to like hype up and support my channel and it keeps me going. And if you really like it, feel free to share it and let me know if you share it anywhere on like social media, anything like that. Because I think it's important, just like the vax thing, that we keep this conversation going and that we let people know that homeschooling is normal, that having these conversations it's normal. Also, if you're a real friend and you want to leave me a review on iTunes on my podcast, that would be amazing. I was like sunk by bad reviews when I got canceled 4 years ago, and I've just never really touched that since. So if any of you want to go flood my podcast with good reviews, any positive thoughts, that would mean a lot to me. So just throwing that out there. I will, God willing, see you guys back here next week with another podcast, and that's it. All right, bye guys.